Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, Dr. Tiff, what's happening?
How's it going, Coach Val? Doing well over here.
Good, good. It's going great over here as well.
Well, happy Tuesday.
Absolutely.
We are back at it again with another amazing Tuesday Talks. And we like to start on time here. So when we say 9 o'clock, we mean 9 o'clock because as parent and teacher, we know time is valuable. So we want to value everybody's time watching, either live or on the replay. So yeah, how's your week been going so far?
I must say that like today with the kids and where we are, there's 9 weeks left in the school year. And so, I just kind of had one of those talks and I said, it's the last 9 weeks of middle school for you. Like,
Mhm.
come on, guys, we got to get it together at this point. And some of them I think are actually taking that seriously. So it gave me kind of a relief today.
Yeah,
Had an ease about me today.
nice. I like a ease. I like that. It's always
Hmm.
nice. I
Yeah.
know it's sliding into that time of the year where you kind of are either counting down to the last days of school or every day is kind of seeming to drag a little bit. Or maybe
Mhm.
it's a nice combination of both.
It is a very nice combination of both. Um, the countdown is real. And actually, a few years ago, somebody like hit me to a new countdown game. So we're used to like counting down the number of days.
Mhm.
So 9 weeks, that's 45 days or whatever. And that's still because of the drag part, that was still just not doing it for me. And then somebody came to me one day and said, why are you counting days? Once Monday hits, the week is already here. Like we gonna count Mondays.
I love it. Life changing, right?
I
You're
got
like,
5 more
we have
Mondays to go.
5 Mondays left. It just took like that big number and then shrunk it down to something that you seem like you could do.
It did. It did.
That is hilarious. I love it. That's a good way to count it down. Well, thanks for everybody who's joining us live tonight and those who are catching the replay. Thanks for hopping in for the replay as well. So we had a really good, in my personal opinion, nice little promo for tonight's episode. We are now at episode 14. Can you even believe it? I know. And
I can.
tonight's topic, are you talking to your kids or at your kids? And we're really going to dive into why good communication is important for our 14th episode of Tuesday Talks. So, if you're joining us now, thanks again for being live with us tonight. So, when we talk about talking to your kids versus at your kids, what we're really looking at is the difference between engaging in dialogue, nice two-way communication, and then that's what that would be talking to your kids. And then talking at your kids is giving them command after command, a direction, then another direction, not allowing for the first direction to be either comprehended, processed, carried out before you give another one. And so that's how we are discerning talking to your kids and talking at your kids. So,
Right. It's like, do you give them space?
yeah,
Like to even be a part of the conversation? Because if not, you're just talking at them. You want to hear your voice, you want them to hear your voice, and then you just want them to take action. And
yeah.
those results that come from that kind of conversation with kids typically are not good.
hmm And even while we were developing tonight's topic and just kind of working through our points, we started talking about gentle parenting. I know that's a little buzzword, and that can either be something that you embrace fully or something that you were like, I don't have anything to do with it. So I feel like it's a really good balance between the two, right? So in my personal parenting style, I balance, that gentle parenting with firmness as well, because there are times when I need you to hear this direction that I'm giving you to stop you from doing something that might hurt you or injure someone else. And then there are other times where there is space for us to have a dialogue and I listen to your point and you listen to mine, and then maybe we collaborate on a solution. But then there are other times when I give the solution, right? So if gentle parenting is not something that you're fully embracing right now, know that we're not heading down that line when we're talking about this. But it really is important in laying the foundation for communication for your children and kids. Maybe you had experience with this, Val. They'll let you know if they're experiencing, like, I like to call it command overload, either through their actions or their words, right?
They definitely will. They definitely will. I mean, yeah, in a classroom setting, I it's natural to just envision the teacher just giving directions or directives to the student. And there was actually a guy that I saw on social media who was talking about how to do that effectively. So it's a whole thing versus, telling them to do what you want versus um, directly versus indirectly telling them what you want them to do is major. However, I just cracked up when you told me about your story of this whole command overload with your son.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he probably was like 4, maybe 3, 4, somewhere in that age range. And I was just in that mode of talking at him. I'm like, you need to get your toys off the floor, go get this off the bathroom floor, make sure you do this. And finally, he just looked at me. He said, Mommy, you're telling me too many things to do at the same time. And in that moment, I had a split second to either be reactive and be like, boy, just do what I said do, or be reflective and say, maybe I did just rattle off 5 different things to do all at one time. So I chose in that moment to be reflective and agreed with him. I did tell you a lot to do. Let me tell you the 2 things I want you to do right now. Get your toys off the floor and then go get things off the floor in the bathroom. So our kids will let us know if we're giving them too much, either through their actions or their words. So in that example, my son used his words to tell me, hey, this is too much. I can't remember or process this all at one time.
Mhm.
And if your child is not using language yet, so as a speech therapist, I work with kiddos who might be nonverbal, but they have really good comprehension and receptive language skills. Maybe they just don't carry out the direction that you gave them. And that is their nonverbal way of letting you know, I'm not really sure what to do here. So either their actions will tell you, or they'll use their words to tell you, I'm in command overload right now. You're dumping too much on me all at once.
I just imagine, I mean, I've done it so many times in the school system with my
Yeah.
own kids. Like it's natural to do. And I just imagine because it's happened, these kids being like,
Yeah.
what do you want me to do right now? It just
Yeah. Yeah. And I've worked,
process it.
yeah, and even in the schools, like in the classroom. So I've done a lot of push-in services with kids who are receiving special education services in a general education classroom. And I have gone to the teacher to say, okay, so this student is going to need you to break down and chunk these directions in smaller pieces, because what you just told the whole class, the child probably heard maybe the first and second thing, probably just the end of the second thing. Maybe you got attention deficit disorder, just some processing disorders there too.
Mhm.
So sometimes you just have to know your child, know your student, so you understand how to give them that information as well. But engaging kids by talking to them about their interests is really important too, to create that two-way communication. What's been your experience with that with your students in your classroom?
Yeah, so kids are going to model the communication style that you give them.
Right.
That's the way they're set up. That's the way they learn by modeling. And so, what I've noticed is that parents who tend to just be directive, those students will uh, try to engage me in conversation in that way. And at first, it was kind of hard for me to not like take it personally or anything like that because I had to realize like this is their mode of communication.
Hmm.
So, for example, if we're getting ready to take, or if we're in the middle of taking notes and I'm having kids write stuff down, a kid will just say, I broke my pencil. And I've gotten to the point where I say, okay, that's great. And they'll just look at me shocked, like, so you're not going to get me a pencil? You haven't asked me for anything.
Exactly.
You, you gave me a statement.
Yeah.
And so, I can respond to it the way I want, but to try to figure out what you need in this moment, your communication, the way you decide to communicate didn't let me know that. You left it up to me to figure it out. Instead, we want to model with them what that looks like to make a request when they need a request versus to make just statements or just make commands.
Yeah. Be a problem solver. Because in that example you just gave, he came to you and gave you the problem, which is his pencil was broken. But we want to create problem solvers in our students and our kids too, so that they can learn that independence and getting their needs met. So the same, example, if you have a child that isn't speaking yet, or maybe uses very few words to communicate, engaging with them and making sure that you're using good vocabulary. There's a really good promo out this week of a little girl. She's an actress. She has Down syndrome, and she's in that promo. She's saying, "You talk to me this way because I have Down syndrome, never expecting me to be able to understand and do more. You're underestimating me." So even if your child is nonverbal or has few words, their comprehension can still be really good. Even if your kid is super verbal, making sure that you're using some higher vocabulary words when you're talking with them in conversation, you're modeling that good conversation for them. And then back to the example you gave about the pencil and helping our kids and students be problem solvers. As parents, and I know I'm guilty of this as well, and I know Val, you got both sides too, the middle school teacher and the parent as well. We anticipate our kids' needs so much that they don't have to really ask for much. They don't have to put their words together to make a request. It's just, I'm hungry. And then as a parent, you're like, oh, well, we got this in there. Look in the pantry. I got this. So, but they haven't made the request yet. They have stated the problem. You may have a younger child who's just going through the pantry and just looking. Instead of saying, oh, I know what you want. Let me get this snack for you. No. Make them use their words to ask for it. I'm hungry. I want, I don't know, goldfish cracker, whatever it is. But stop anticipating the needs as a parent and as a teacher too, because I'm sure as a teacher, and you can probably attest to this better than me, it's real easy you already know what they want when they're walking up to you in certain situations.
Oh, I do, without a doubt. And like I said, I remember early on, I used to anticipate, and I just found that it began to be more on me energetically, where it would drain my energy because I'm doing all the thinking, I'm doing all the work. We talked about when you do that with children, you allow them to be passive versus learning how to be assertive. Assertiveness is not disrespectful, doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to mean anything negative at all. But when I think about it, I want my kids to know how to advocate for themselves and speak up for themselves when I'm not around. And so part of what we're saying is you're training your child for who they need to be in moments when you're not there.
Yeah, for sure. And helping your kids become that assertive student or child to give their needs when they want them so that they are actually getting their needs met and not just somebody else's interpretation of what their need is very important too. And, just to bring up the nonverbal child again, in those instances as well, we can create independent nonverbal kids too, because they can grab your hand and take you over to what it is that they want without you walking them over to give them the chance for you to anticipate what they need in that moment too. So I just love that when you model good communication, you are setting your kids up for success to be able to assert themselves and state their needs when you're not around as the teacher or the parent. You're setting them up for success to be able to think, hey, I know how to use my words, gestures, whatever to communicate what it is that I want. So I make sure I get what I need instead of just relying on this familiar or unfamiliar teacher, para that I'm around to anticipate what it is and read my mind. So I think that's super important. This week I saw a video on Instagram. It was a preschool teacher, and you can see him in the frame. And there's a student, probably like maybe 4 years old. He's crying, and the teacher is asking him, "Hey, come over here." And he says, "Okay, it's fine to cry," because the student was having a conflict with another child in the classroom. And the teacher said, "It's fine to cry, but you need to finish crying and make sure you go over to him and tell him, 'I don't like when you do that.'" He said, "Because if you don't tell him, he won't know that you didn't
Mhm.
like it. He won't know why you're crying if you don't tell him." So not
Mhm.
only in that moment did the teacher give that student the words to use, because when you're emotional, sometimes you lose your words. Like I've
Right.
done that myself. So he's giving
Mhm.
him the language to use in very simple terms. Now we're talking about 4-year-olds, younger kids. So he's teaching him self advocacy. He's giving him the direct language to use in that situation. And he's also showing him conflict resolution as well. So that is such a great example. When I saw that, I was like, oh, this is spot on. You are modeling the good communication, and then you are giving the child the space to practice that in the moment. Super, super important. And I know in middle school, you can see a lot of kids uh, reacting, not using their words as much as they should.
They do. I know. And this is a good comment related to that. Um, we have a viewer, Miss Wanda, says, "What if the kid keeps talking while I'm talking?" I currently have a student who loves to do that.
Mm,
And again, it was a learning moment for me because at first I'm like, "You being disrespectful."
mhm.
Like you asked me a question or you gave me a statement. You're expecting a response. I go to respond and then you keep talking.
Yeah.
So it has taken me a while. We're not all the way where I want us to be, but the more that I would pause, sir, you asked me a question, you didn't give me time to answer. Like to continue to model that conversation looks like this in this environment, in
Hmm.
the way that we're communicating in this academic space, or just with me in general. Like this outside of academics, I'm going to need you to pause so that I can respond to what you just said. You got to give
Hmm.
space for that. And he is slowly starting to learn how to do that. So I would say it's training. You're training the kids, and training takes time.
It
So
does.
that means you also have to be patient and
Hmm.
understand your goal in teaching them how to communicate and meeting them where they are and not take it personal.
Yeah. And I think also in that example too, making sure that you give that child the space to get their points out as well gives them that reassurance that, okay, if I let Miss Wilson talk first, she's going to give me this opportunity to say my side at the end. But if
Mhm.
you aren't going to give them that space to share, then the balance is off. And so they
Right.
do feel like they need to interject. And it does go back to respect as well. We're like towing that line between that gentle approach and this, very rigid. So there's room for both. It can be both, and you can do both things at one time. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What about in the classroom, Val? You have any examples of middle schoolers maybe needing some of that good modeling um, when you all are getting ready to transition from activity to activity?
Um, yeah, so again, educators give directions, and sometimes we know them in our head and we forget that the kids are really hearing it for the first time.
Hmm.
And so to chunk how you give them the directions. My class is currently doing a project and their directions has 9 things on a list. Today it was being introduced. Did I introduce all 9 of the things on that list? Absolutely not. Okay. By the time I would get, depending on the class, by the time I would get to step number 4, they would have forgotten everything I said to do for step 1. So chunking allows for the kids to grasp what's being said and to actually like process it and do it. And it allows for you to check for understanding.
Mhm.
Modeling that for them, I see the kids reciprocated back to me. Like they will take their time. So whatever I model for them,
Yep.
after a while, they will start communicating back with me in the same way. It's really cool. I can't, it's like,
It
it's really
is.
cool to see.
The kids are watching. Your kids are watching you and listening. Your students in your classroom are listening and watching too. They're soaking it all up. So if you are giving them good models for communication, if you're giving them concrete examples to follow, if you're giving them that feedback, hey, when you told me that your pencil was broke, that didn't really help me understand what you needed. So next time, tell me what you need instead of the problem that you have. And giving them that type of feedback, they soak it up. And it doesn't mean, like you mentioned, it takes time. Doesn't mean you give them this one good communication model, good feedback one time, and then magically think that's not how the world works, right? So we're looking at consistency over time, modeling that. And I know you do some work with the student council in middle school as well, right? So I can see how this could build up that communication in kids from an early age. And then by the time they get to middle school, maybe they do become part of student council because they're able to communicate in very effective ways, for lack of better words. Or,
I think that's a perfect word. In one of our recent meetings for student council, a student actually brought to the meeting something that a peer had talked to him about. And so it was really cool to see um, the peer communicated with my student council member, and the way that the student council member proposed, the student's concern is, like I said, if you model the way that you want them to communicate with you, then they will do it. And I don't want us to be misunderstood to say that the current model of communication is bad or wrong or anything like that. It's like with everything, there's a time and a place. And so when we're talking about the education system and being in a building with adults in a professional setting, we want our kids to be able to communicate and thrive in those settings as well as in their social settings. So it's all about teaching them time and place and what's appropriate, what would be more appropriate in this situation versus this other situation.
yeah, for sure. And I think too, just taking that a step further, when you give kids the opportunity to self-advocate and problem solve independently, it builds up their confidence and their emotional regulation as it relates to communication. I got stuck on that one. Emotional regulation, that's like a buzzword in the world of social work now in the schools. So if you're not familiar with it, you're listening right now or watching the replay, emotional regulation, just as a textbook kind of definition, is the ability to have control over your emotional state in a manner that's socially appropriate or tolerable. In lay terms, I just like to put things plain and simple, is choosing, when we're talking about emotional regulation as it goes along with communication, it's about choosing to communicate with your words versus your hands versus your body. So I'm going to choose in this moment to use my words to express my displeasure with something, my frustration with something, why I'm upset about something,
Mhm.
versus acting out. Maybe you have younger kids, they throw tantrums, maybe they shut down. As older kids, maybe middle schoolers, they just shut down and don't want to have any dialogue, communication at all. So when we model that self advocacy and that good communication, and we develop them to be good problem solvers, then they soak that up and then they can use that in situations that are really important. But that takes a lot of awareness for us as parents and teachers, because somebody cuts you off in traffic. I'll just talk about myself. Somebody cuts me off in traffic or is taking forever at the four-way stop. Like, we forgot what the little manual taught us when we got our license. I'm like, um, it's your turn to go. Green means go. I'm like, so I think it's super important to make sure that, we are aware of what we are modeling in all situations. And when we have a slip up, I think it's so important to just be open and honest about that with our kids, with our students. Hey, you know what? I probably could have handled and responded to that situation a little bit better. This is what I wish I had have done. This is what I wish I would have said. And that gives space for the kids to come back and make corrections for their own maybe miscommunication or not so great choices in the future.
It's so powerful to let kids see you in your humanity. Let
Mhm.
kids see you as the imperfect people that we are. And actually, we connect more through our imperfections than we do trying to seem perfect. And so, like, apologizing to your kid when it's necessary, it's showing them that it's okay
Mhm.
for them to do it when it's their time. You build that bond so much faster and so much stronger by just being authentic and being real with them. And it models, well, here's what you can do when you make a mistake, because you're going to make a mistake. Here's how
Mhm.
you can handle it. Here's how you can communicate within that problem. I messed up, so we don't really want to do what I did because I don't really like the results that I got when I
Yeah.
did it. This is what, and it also shows them how to be reflective about
Mhm.
their actions, which is something that these teens, I call them you people. If you 12 to 18, for me, you are you people, okay? Um, just that age bracket, just them. But it's something that during those years, they're really trying to learn that skill in life.
Yeah. And especially for the little ones too, the terrible twos are real. And most times kids are throwing those tantrums because they lack the vocabulary to be able to express what they're actually feeling in the moment. So what they have control over is their body. So I'm just going to fall out on the floor. And that will get your attention. That will let you know that I am very upset about something, and maybe spark you to have a conversation, redirect me, offer me another choice. So even younger kids, even if they're not, using higher level vocabulary, or maybe they're not using words at all, they are still soaking up all that we are showing them. So being reflective and helping them develop that emotional regulation muscle through using good communication is vital. It really, really is. And I think, you know, of course, here on Tuesday Talks, we like to, give very actionable solutions to the topics that we bring up. So engaging with your kids in conversation, asking them about their interests, like we talked about before, it could be a question as easy as, what was fun at school today for your little kids? What was fun at school today? I like to start with that one because it's real easy. They're probably going to say recess, or maybe they did some cool experiment or something in class. Most times it's
Yep.
going to be recess. What was something fun you did at school? What was something that was hard for you today at school? It can be those very basic questions, but it is showing them that you care about their day. You want to know what it is that they experience through their day as well. And then that can engage conversation. And I've done that with my own son. And now he'll even ask me, so how was work today? And some days I'm like, you know what? Today was pretty challenging. I had a lot of meetings and I was tired of sitting at the desk and walking on my under the desk treadmill that I keep right under me. Or some days I'm like, this was really great. I had a great meeting today. So when you model it for them, they give it back to you. It's not
I mean,
magic.
I was gonna give you props because we did an episode about that. Um, you know, talking to your kid about their day and something. You gave some really good suggestions for what to do, and so I started doing them. My
Awesome.
youngest son is 6, and I just noticed, like, over the past maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Even today, he's like, well, how was your day, mom?
I love it.
Like, and I don't even have to, and sometimes he'll ask me before I ask him, sometimes as soon as he's done, well, that was my day. But how about you, mom? Did you have a good day? And then he'll ask follow-up questions. I'm like, oh my God.
I love it. That makes my heart smile for sure. And
Yeah.
even if you just go to your kids and you're like, you know what? Today was a tough day. Can I just have a hug? Today was a tough day. Can we, I don't want to argue about homework tonight. Can you just get done what you can get done? Giving them that information so that in the event that they are having a day where they're overwhelmed, maybe frustrated, then they can use that same language with you as well. Like, I had a really hard day today, mom. Can we not, maybe you run a bunch of errands in the evening. Can we not do that? Can I just have some time to be at home, just
Mhm.
by myself? So modeling that and engaging in conversation with them is really, really important. Any other tips?
Yeah. Even just real quick, while you're engaging with them in conversation, like, ask about their interests. So a good intro to that is your question, what was fun today? But kind of dig into what are they interested about, and steer the conversation to that, because they'll talk about what they like. And then once they're talking about what they like and they're starting to open up, you can use some higher level vocabulary during that time, just to kind of ease it in there, to start getting them used to using it on a regular basis.
Hmm.
Teach them to ask, instead of just telling. Like we said earlier, what is your need? Okay, I want you to be good at asking for it in a clear, direct way, so people will understand, how to help you.
Hmm. Yeah, being problem solvers. We need more problem solvers. It's easy as adults and as kids to sit around and just complain about all the problems that we see, but we need to create problem solvers. That starts at home, it starts in the classrooms, it starts with us as the adults in their lives to model that for them so that they can start to develop that skill for themselves as well. And that if you model that at home, all of these things that we talked about tonight, the self advocacy, the emotional regulation, good communication, if you model those things at home, the kid that you send to school and sits in the classroom in front of the teacher is going to make that teacher's job in the behavior area much easier.
Hands down.
Because as a teacher, you're juggling multiple things all day: the schedule, different kids' needs, what you're teaching, behavior issues in the classroom. So, if we could send our kids to school having modeled this good communication for them, having modeled and shown them how to be problem solvers, how to self advocate, that would just make the teacher's experience in the classroom just a little bit easier. So, you can focus on what you actually went and got your degree for, which was teaching.
I know, right? Yeah. And it also teaches them how to be good community members as well. Because when you decrease the number of negative behaviors, then it also increases the positivity and just the energy of the room. And the other students pick up on that, and they tend to, bring out more positivity as well. So, it's not just for the kid themselves, but we are community people.
Exactly, exactly. I think this was a really good topic tonight. I hope that everybody who's watching live or catching the replay, I saw some comments in the chat, how this was all really resonating with you all. Just be that good model. Whatever it is you want to see come out of your students, out of your children, be that
Mhm.
model for them, because that's the only way that those skills get developed in them. It's not magic. We talked about that before. If we all had a wand and we could just flick our wand and all the things that the kids need, they just have it, we would do it. But that's not how the world works. So they need those good models. They need you to teach them those skills. And you can do that by talking to them and not just talking at them.
Right, right, right. Good stuff, Dr. Tiffany.
Love it. Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. That's our episode, and we are here every Tuesday at 9 p.m. on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and LinkedIn Live as well. So we'll see you all next week.
See
Bye.
you.